Hello everybody, my name is Taka VR and this is Primal Impulse and we're going to be doing pain play. So for those that don't know me, I come from the IRL scene. I've spent about 15 years there. Learned a lot, lots of ups, lots of downs. Hopefully I can bring that knowledge forward to everybody. An integral part of Kink and BDSM is pain play. It can provide a unique and powerful experience to both the receiver and the giver. While some may view it as taboo or extreme, it is important to recognize that pain play is a valid and legitimate form of expression for many individuals within the community. Throughout this class, we will explore the various aspects of pain play, including its definition, types of pain, types of play, the important role of communication and consent, amongst other things. Whether you are a seasoned practitioner or new to the world of kink, we hope that this will provide valuable insights and guidance into this practice. Again, because we don't know what skill levels we have, this is more of a general overview. I highly recommend that you don't take this information and go straight into play. Do your own research first and get involved in your local communities as well, if you choose to go to IRL, if you're not already. And by doing that, I recommend going to munches. Don't go to play parties right away, go to munches. They will allow you to integrate into a kink community in a vanilla setting in a safe way. Speaking of munches, we now have 2 munches coming up. One is a pet play social next week, and we also have a monthly general Primal munch that we're going to be holding either in Discord or VR chat. And we'll give away like prizes and raffles and like a couple Steam game keys, as well as an avatar asset that you can put on your avatar, such as a flogger or what have you. So we'll buy one for you. The purpose of this class and workshop, remember, there is going to be a workshop after this. We're going to go to a dungeon and allow people to actually play. I highly recommend that if you're going to the workshop, that you negotiate with somebody that you want to play with. This is for education and guidance for both sadists and masochists who want to explore and improve their skills of pain play. As with any form of BDSM, it is important to prioritize education, safety, and consent, and approach pain play with a willingness to learn and communicate openly with your partner. Through this class, we will define pain play, etc., etc. Whether you are new to pain play or looking to refine your skills, this workshop and class is designed to help you. Pain play is a common aspect of BDSM and is often incorporated into the broader lifestyle. It can encompass a wide range of activities from mild to extreme and can be enjoyed by both sadists and masochists and people that don't identify at all alike. Pain play is often seen as a way to explore boundaries of physical and emotional sensations and to enhance the experience of power exchange in a BDSM dynamic. For many individuals in the BDSM lifestyle, pain play is an important aspect of their sexual and emotional expression. It helps them explore and push their limits, to challenge themselves physically and emotionally, and to experience intense sensations that can bring them deeper states of awareness and connection with their partners. It is also a way to achieve a cathartic release of pent-up emotions, or to explore difficult psychological issues in a safe and consensual way. That being said, this is not therapy. It's more of a band-aid and less of a fix. So if you have issues with that kind of thing, I highly recommend a therapist. A good dominant is worth their weight in gold, but they're not a therapist. And also a good submissive is worth their weight in platinum. So while pain play is often associated with whips, floggers, and other implements, it can also be achieved through a variety of other methods, such as, we primal, biting, scratching, pinching, or even certain forms of bondage. Or taking your hand around someone's wrist and putting them above their head can have a little bit of pain to it as long as you're being careful. Some individuals may prefer a more intense thuddy sensation, while others may prefer stinging sensation that is more sharp and localized. Whatever the preferred method, it's key to explore the different types of sensations and find out what works best for you. We'll go over this in a little bit. Because basically you want to start slow and work your way up. We had an impact play class, which went over a lot of this stuff. And in the near future, we will have a class that will go over more on that topic, including going over whips. So for those involved in the BDSM lifestyle, pain play can also serve as a way to explore power dynamics and roles. The giving and receiving of pain can be seen as a way to assert or relinquish control and to help reinforce or subvert traditional gender roles. It is also seen as a way to negotiate and explore boundaries and limits within a relationship. Pain skills are a nice way to bond and get someone to realize where your limits are. And you want to make sure that you are sticking within those limits. You can push limits a little bit with consent, but make sure that when you're first starting out that you obey when I say pushing limits, it's like, okay, we're going to get you to a 5, maybe a 6, maybe a 7, but let me know. And then you can push to a 7 if they want that kind of thing. While there is often a stigma attached to BDSM and pain play, many individuals find that it enhances their lives and their relationships. It can be a way to explore and embrace different aspects of oneself, to push one's boundaries and test limits and experience intense and pleasurable sensations. A sadist is a person, right here, I'm a person, who experiences sexual or emotional pleasure by causing physical or emotional pain or suffering to others. The sadist may derive pleasure from inflicting physical pain through acts such as spanking, whipping, biting, or emotional pain. It is important to note that the term sadist is only used in context of consensual BDSM activities and does not refer to individuals who engage in non-consensual abusive behavior. Big difference. A masochist is someone who derives pleasure or sexual gratification from experiencing physical or emotional pain or humiliation. They may enjoy, that's not mutually exclusive, by the way. A masochist who enjoys physical pain may not necessarily enjoy humiliation or emotional pain. Big distinction there. They may enjoy being restrained or degraded, among other things. Masochism is often considered a part of the broader BDSM community, where it is practiced consensually between partners. Masochists may enjoy a wide variety of sensations, including both physical and emotional pain, and may finding that engaging in masochistic acts enhances their sexual experiences. And again, it could also enhance their catharsis, letting go of things. Maintenance spankings, which I don't quite cover here, but maintenance spankings are a good way and a good example of that, because when they get spanked, they release those endorphins, they release those emotions, and they let it go. And that's very important for a lot of submissives, is to have that release point. So that's why maintenance beatings / spankings in a consensual way are a good thing. Regardless of what you did, we're going to spank you, and then you can let all the shit go. That works with some people. Some people you have to be very specific in what they did wrong, and that's okay. In the context of pain play, sadists and masochists are the primary participants, with sadists administering the pain and masochists receiving it. The level of pain and intensity can vary depending on the preference of the individuals involved. A lot of people like to mix up the methods of pain as well, and we'll go over that as well. It is worth noting that not all individuals who enjoy pain strictly identify as sadists or masochists. Some may enjoy both giving and receiving pain, while others may not identify with either label, but are still incorporating pain in their BDSM activities. Again, it is a huge aspect of BDSM is the release and the giving of pain, just strictly because of the way BDSM is. But there are some people out there who do BDSM and don't do any sort of physical pain, and that's perfectly okay. They may get off on mental bondage, they may get off on being told what to do or telling other people what to do, but may not ever want to have pain involved. For example, or not quite an example, but my former submissive, she did not like pain at all. It was something that she loathed. However, she gave it to people, or she enabled people to give it to her that she wanted to serve as an act of service. And that was her way of being of service to somebody. And so that worked for her. That may not necessarily work for everybody, but that was her gift to her dominant. Ultimately, the labels are just tools to help individuals identify and communicate their preferences and desires within the BDSM community. So, you may have heard me say this a couple times already and throughout other classes. Safety and consent in S&M. Sadism and masochism, S&M. I am not going to pound home safety and consent the entire class, okay? In order to not sound like a broken record, we're going to cover safety and consent in this portion. Assume that everything else in this class can be followed with consensually, safely, and with boundaries established, etc., etc. Every single sentence I say can pretty much have that attached to it, but I'm not going to beat it to death. I'm going to beat it until it says, I'm good, thank you. So, safety and consent are essential aspects of any BDSM or kink activity, especially in pain play. Pain play can involve different levels of intensity, and it's crucial to ensure that both the masochist and the sadist involved are aware of the risks and consequences involved. Thus, safety and consent are crucial for the enjoyable and fulfilling experience of both parties. Before engaging in pain play, both the sadist and masochist must communicate and negotiate their boundaries, limits, and safe words. It is essential to discuss any physical, mental, or emotional limitations or potential triggers. This communication ensures that the pain play activities remain within the negotiated limits and prevent any harm or physical or emotional distress. Again, hurt is temporary. I'm a sadist. I like to smack a booty. I will not smack a booty to the point where it causes heavy bleeding to where it causes long-term harm or distress. Okay? Never. Every time I get into a new dynamic, I raise my hand. I've said this before. I promise I will never do any intentional harm to you, physically, emotionally, or mentally. Accidents happen, everybody. This is not a inherently safe activity we're doing. But your intentions are to be as safe as possible and to not harm them. You want to put the other person first before yourself in all things, unless it's someone that you don't really know, and then you have to be on your guard. But always sort of have that Overwatch mindset. It's like, I need to make sure that we're being safe, and I can stop you if need be with my safe words. But, you know, give to the other person. Be there for the other person, even if it's just pickup play. And remember, aftercare after the fact is super important. Soothe those wounds, soothe those burns, soothe those booties. So like, for example, if I give a slap on the butt, I'll do it like a couple times and then I'll rub it in. You don't know how much that helps. It's really cool. Consent is also critical in pain play. All parties involved must agree to participate in the activity willingly and without coercion. Consent must be ongoing and can be withdrawn at any time during the activity if any of the parties feel uncomfortable or unsafe. The use of safe words is essential to ensure that the masochist who signaled them when they need to stop or adjust the intensity of the pain. Safe word yellow, please ease off a little bit. Sadists should also be attentive to the masochist's reactions and take cues from their partner's body language, breathing, or verbal cues. Very important, especially in pain play. People can go nonverbal very, very quickly. So you, as a dominant, as a sadist, need to be aware of what they're doing. If they go into subspace, they're not going to be able to stop you. So unless you have a very heavy negotiated consent to keep going a little bit into subspace, make sure that you're checking in a lot, but make sure that you're slowing down and making sure that they're still okay. All right. Once you're partnered with someone for a long time, you can read their body language and know that, and with their consent, that they're okay to go an additional 5 minutes past that point, 10 minutes past that point. But if someone just goes into la-la land, start easing up, go slower. Safety measures must also be taken in pain play activities to prevent any accidental harm. Sadists must be aware of the risk involved and take appropriate measures to ensure the masochist's safety. This includes ensuring that the equipment used is in good condition and appropriately sanitized. Additionally, they should be cautious, about hitting vital organs or sensitive areas. We covered this in our impact play class. There we have something in event chat, if you scroll up, that shows the proper places to hit and the proper places to avoid. You want to avoid the spine, the kidneys, the neck, the head, and joints, among other things. This is also ensuring that it's in good condition and appropriately sanitized. Additionally, they should also be cautious about hitting vital organs, as I said, such as the face or genitals. It is also essential to avoid activities that may cause long-term physical damage, such as bloodletting or cutting. I'm into knives. I don't cut. Artistic cutting, sure, a little bit, maybe, sometimes. But that's just the first couple layers of skin. Unless you're a seasoned blood play person, don't try it. Do a lot of research. Good pain play. Bad if you don't know what you're doing. Moreover, aftercare is essential to pain play activities. Sadists and masochists should take the time to care for each other after the activity and ensuring that all parties involved feel safe, loved, comfortable. And it's essential to check in with them to ensure that they're not experiencing any adverse effects or emotional distress. During, after, a couple days after, keep in contact. I'm here if you go into drop. What is drop? Drop is that feeling when you're just like, all of your endorphins are high and free floating before, and then all of a sudden you're on the floor. Your mood just goes bleh. And it could lead to suicidal thoughts. It is a thing. Just make sure that you're aware that it could happen. Research BDSM drop, and you'll get a list of symptoms and what to do to counter it. What I like to do is because I have anxiety issues, so I go through this whenever, like 2 or 3 days after a panic attack, I'll have drop. So I have chocolate available. I know what's going on. I take walks. I try to keep my endorphins up because all of those chemicals that were high during that moment, they need to come back. The laws of relativity and physics work here too. What goes up must come down. Any matter that is extinguished needs to be given back. So all of that fun stuff needs to be regenerated back. And that is a painful process sometimes for some people. Hey, so we're going to go over the psychological aspects of S&M. Sadism and masochism, two terms coined by psychiatrist Richard von Krafft-Ebing in the late 19th century, refer to the psychological states of deriving pleasure or sexual gratification from inflicting or receiving pain, respectively. Those terms are often used in the context of BDSM and kink play, including pain play. While the terms are often used in a sexual context, the underlying psychological mechanisms that drive masochism or sadism are not always sexual in nature. For sadists, the act of inflicting pain on others can provide a sense of power and control, and can also be pleasurable. This power dynamic can be a turn-on, as the sadist can explore their dominance and assert their will over their partner. It is important to note, however, that does not necessarily involve non-consensual or abusive behavior. In the context of consensual BDSM play, sadists and their partners establish clear boundaries and communication channels to ensure the experience is safe and enjoyable for all involved. That one slipped by. That one should have gone into the safety bucket. On the other hand, masochists derive pleasure from receiving pain or humiliation. This can stem from a variety of psychological factors, including a desire to submit to the dominant partner, a need for self-punishment or self-exploration, or simply finding pleasure in the sensation of pain. While the psychological mechanisms behind sadism and masochism are complex and can vary from individual to individual, they often involve a desire for power exchange and a means of exploring intense physical and emotional sensations. The act of giving or receiving pain can create a heightened sense of arousal and connection between partners, allowing them to explore their deepest desires and push their boundaries. It's the same reason why people jump out of planes. It's the same why people chase that adrenaline rush. When you're in pain, your body releases endorphins to counter it, and that can cause you to kind of get addicted to pain play. Just make sure you're doing it in moderation, but feeding that is oftentimes fun. Like if I'm playing with somebody with some floggers, I'm like, 2 for you, a 1 for me. Because 1, I get to see what it feels like to make sure I'm doing it the right way, and 2, that's cool. Last night I was walking the dog and I was just messing with the leash, and I'm like, thwack, 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 just to do it. Not to punish myself, but just to feel what it felt like in case I wanted to use like a leash on someone in that way. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions so far? Yes, Jaguar, stingy fun. No one in the chat. I'm happy to see some new faces here today. We're starting to get a little bit of movement, and I appreciate all of you for doing that, because a lot of that is your guys' doing. And special thanks to Blurpy. Thank you for working with me for this last month to get all this thing up off the ground. The stigma surrounding sadism and masochism is deeply rooted in societal and cultural attitude towards sexuality and unconventional sexual practices. Y'all remember the Puritans? We've come a long way since then. Puritans believed that, like, having sex was like a bad thing, but they had to do it in order to procreate. And look at us now. And that wasn't that long ago. That was what, 18th century, 19th century? That was like less than 200 years ago. So we're the evolution people. You know what I mean? We're the ones that are evolving to see what we want to do with ourselves and our sexuality. And or lifestyle. Doesn't always have to be sexual. The idea that pain and dominance can be pleasurable is often seen as deviant or abnormal, leading to the negative stereotypes and misconceptions about those who engage in these activities. The notion that individuals who enjoy pain play are deranged, traumatized, or have some sort of psychological disorder fully reinforces this stigma. This harmful attitude can create shame and self-doubt for those who engage in these activities, making it difficult to openly express their desires and form meaningful connections with others, just in general. The lack of education and understanding around the consensual and healthy nature of these practices further contributes to the stigma, perpetuating misunderstandings and stereotypes. It is important to recognize and challenge these negative attitudes in order to create a more accepting and inclusive society for all forms of consensual sexual expression. Now, in the real world, you're going to come across people who will just kink shame you. And there's not much you can do about it except for stand up for yourself. If it's something that you want to be public with, stand up for yourself in a way that makes you feel empowered and proud of what you do. Because what you're doing is not something to keep in the dark, although because of this stigma, we usually do. Speaking of the stigma, I was tired of living in the dark. I wanted to share with someone who happens to be my best friend, my father, share with him what I'm doing here. Because I never said the word kink. I always said I'm helping people, or at least I'm attempting to help people in the online space to consensually do what they're going to do, but do it in a safe way to make sure that everyone involved is happy. Because I saw way too many consent breaks, and I saw way too many people not understanding that there was a human on the other side of the screen. So, after doing this for about 4 months so far, I just straight up told him what was going down. I said, hey, Dad, this is the website. This is what's going on. I'm in the kink lifestyle. I've been in it for 15 years. He was super accepting. I don't recommend doing it with your parents. But that being said, my dad is in the server now. We had to make a special role for him so he didn't get overwhelmed with the fire hose. But he can see like a couple channels just to give him an idea what's going on. He wanted to support. He's a Patreon. He's a patron now on Patreon. I'm not advertising the Patreon, but it was just funny because he went to the website, he clicked on Patreon, and then from there he came here. My dad is awesome. Yeah, he supports everything we do and he loves us to death. My mom is supportive in everything I do as long as it's not poly, but that's a story for another day. I'll tell that story during relationships part 2. So yeah. It is also crucial to understand the difference between BDSM and intimate partner violence. Intimate partner violence is characterized by the imbalance of power and control and involves non-consensual actions that are intended to harm, humiliate, or coerce the victim. BDSM, on the other hand, is consensual and negotiated activity that focuses on mutual pleasure and exploration for both parties involved. If you are in a submissive/dominant relationship or dominant/submissive relationship and you feel you don't have any power, it's time to question that and say, hey, I do have power. I want this to stop. Another reason I started teaching is to empower people to say, this is not okay. We went over some of this stuff in the last class, Relationships Part 1. I highly recommend checking that out. If you are in an abusive relationship, it gives you tips on how to spot it and how to get out. It's on YouTube and the website now. So, types of pain play. If anyone has any questions, no. Types of pain play. Pain is a common element of BDSM scenes, as I've mentioned this entire class. It can be applied to a variety of ways to enhance pleasure, submission, and power exchange. However, when it comes to pain play, it's essential to understand that there's different kinds of pain and how it can be safely applied to a scene. The first type of pain that is commonly associated to BDSM is physical. Physical pain can come in many forms, such as sensory deprivation. Weird one, right? But hear me out. This type of play involves depriving the submissive of one or more of their senses, such as sight or hearing, and then inflicting pain on them. Or just letting them wander around and say, okay, you can't use your eyes for the day. It's very good for mental bondage. It's like you have to wear a blindfold for 24 hours. You don't even realize how awesome that is once you do it. You're just like, holy crap. Your other side's senses are heightened, and you have to rely on the other person to help you around. It creates a really strong bond. Anyway, back on topic. The lack of sensory input heightens the experience of pain, makes it for a more intense and pleasurable experience for some masochists. Number 2, impact play. This type of pain play involves the use of impact toys such as floggers, paddles, canes, whips, cool whip, to inflict pain on the submissive. The intensity and type of pain can vary depending on the toys used and the preference of the players. Heat play / hot wax play. This type of play involves dripping hot wax onto the submissive's body or using fire in some way. The sensation of the hot wax dripping under the skin can be both painful and pleasurable, and the wax can be scraped away or peeled off for an additional sensation. Needle play. This type of pain involves inserting needles into the skin of the submissive. Some people are like, ugh, and that's okay. I'm not going to go into terrible much detail, so I'll raise my hand when I'm done. The sensation of the needles piercing the skin can be both painful and pleasurable, and some players enjoy creating patterns or designs with the needles. You'll see a lot of pictures like that on FetLife. Okay, we're done talking about needles. Electric play. This type of pain play involves the use of electrical stimulation on the submissive's body. The intensity and the type of stimulation can be varied depending on the device used or the preference of the players. You have TENS units, you have violet wands, and other types of implements. I have limited experience, but electric play is something I really want to explore as a dominant. If I'm on the bottom in that case, I have to read out a lot because I found out I'm super sensitive to those sensations and I can't handle them. So I admit, I cannot handle electronic stimulation. So it's fun as a dom, yeah. It's fun as a dom to do electric play, but as a submissive, it's a special kind of masochism to me. But again, that goes into the example. Different types of play will have different associations and feelings to different people. There are some people where if you spank them once really softly, it hurts like a 10. And there are some people that I have to use a shower rod on to get them to feel a 3. True story. True story. I had to use a shower rod to get them to be actually feeling it. It was insane. I've had some hard bottoms before, which is what they're called, but holy shit. Another type of pain that's used in BDSM is emotional or psychological pain. Humiliation. This can include verbal or physical actions that aim to degrade or humiliate the submissive partner, such as name-calling, forced nudity, or public exposure. Consensually. Sometimes I have to say consensually afterwards because some people may take that as a reason to abuse. No, it is consensual. Just because you want someone to treat you like that doesn't mean you are that. You want someone to treat you like trash, but know that they care for you at the end of the day and just care for you during it. Fear can be incorporated into a scene that can be used through the use of suspense, anticipation, or surprise, such as blindfolding the submissive partner or administering a surprise punishment. Or in knife play, for example, showing someone the knife, blindfolding them, and then using a plastic one. Emotional vulnerability, or creating an emotional intense scene can be a form of emotional pain play, such as encouraging a partner to open up about their insecurities or fears. Can be fun in a playful aspect. Can also be fun in a very deep aspect. The issue there is that you have to make sure that you're not stepping on hard traumas that will hurt. Sadism through emotional affliction. A dominant partner can intentionally cause emotional pain by triggering a submissive's emotional triggers or vulnerabilities. Again, what did I just say? That's an advanced thing. Don't just go out and do that. Heavily talk about it. Heavily consent to it. Heavily make a plan about how you want to do that. It's good to push boundaries with permission, and it's good to try to move people beyond their stuff, but we're not therapists, okay? You can do it to a point, and you can help people get through it, and it's catharsis and release, but don't overdo it, and don't discard someone after. If you're going into this stuff, the aftercare has to be heavy, okay? We're talking multiple day follow-ups. We're talking, you're not, stay with me for the next couple of days to make sure that, you're good, or something like that. Power dynamics are used to create emotional pain through the exercise of control, such as giving orders, administering punishments, or setting rules and limits that the submissive partner may find challenging or difficult to follow. Watching a submissive struggle is so fun, as long as it's in good fun. You don't want to get them so stressed out that they're just like out of their mind with worrying or walking on eggshells with you. But if you're doing it and you're like, and you change something up that they don't understand, and you're like, deal with it, they're like, that's fun. It's important to note that emotional or a psychological pain can be more difficult to manage than physical pain and requires a higher level of trust and communication between partners. What did I just say? I'm just reiterating the same thing over and over again. Be safe out there. So, sadists. Let's talk about giving pain. As a sadist, it's important to approach pain play with care and consideration for your partner's physical and emotional well-being. Different kinds of pain can elicit different responses from your partner, so it's important to understand the nuances of each type of pain and how it might be experienced. Again, try it on yourself first. One type of pain is stingy, as we mentioned, sharp and intense. Another type is thuddy, which we mentioned, degradation, humiliation, etc., etc. So in addition to understanding the different types of play, as we mentioned already, it's important to approach pain play with a positive and focused mindset. Take time to prepare yourself mentally before a scene and stay present and attentive throughout. Remember that communication is key. Be sure to check in with your partner frequently and be open to feedback and adjustments. By approaching pain play with care and consideration, you can make sure it's an enjoyable experience for both. So basically, tailor your pain regimen to the person. You need to make sure that you're doing it consensually and you're doing it to their level of comfort. You don't want to start at a 10. You want to start at a 2 and work your way up. Unless you're doing something extremely like just as a surprise, that's brief, that's fine, but don't keep them at a 10. Yeah, just don't keep them at a 10. That's bad. You want to be safe with this stuff. So like if you're doing spanking, like we said in impact play class, you do full body and do it, but you can vary your strikes accordingly and start slow and work your way up. Okay. You want to make sure that they're not 10 right away. Okay. That's the biggest thing you need to take away from here, is that you need to tailor yourself to others. If you're going to be doing degradation and humiliation, make sure that you know their triggers and that you are having their best interests at heart. Don't step on anything that's going to cause any harm. I say this over and over again, but it's important. It's very important. You have a question?
For example, I studied psychology, so I'm really good at picking up on people and how they feel. But there's a lot of people who aren't exactly fine-tuned towards others' emotions and struggle to pick up on when their submissive is in more of a self-harming headspace rather than wanting to actually receive pleasure. So how do you recommend for people who aren't as in tune with emotions or reading people to like find that difference?
That's a very good question. And for a lot of people, reading people is something that they just can't do. And so a lot of people can't process physical cues, right? And so you have to be very careful on that. And that's a very good question. So what I like to do is if I'm with somebody that may have self-harming tendencies, obviously therapy, but 2, I will have them journal, and that journal will be made available to me. So I'll know their mindset going into things. So like I'll have them write in their journal on a nightly basis. And if they want to play on something that's maybe a pain level kind of thing, I'll read their journal to see what kind of a headspace they may be in. Or I will sit down with them as an adult and say, look, what is your true intention with this? Right? Because submissive and dominant stuff is an adult relationship. So you want to have an adult conversation. So you can sit down and say, hey, what's your intention with this? I'm more than happy to help here, but let's meet in the middle and discuss what this is about, right? As for actually reading people, I find that if someone is being in a self-destructive state, you'll kind of get hints beforehand. They'll be moody, they'll be depressed, withdrawn. And you'll kind of notice that they're not going to be like their 100% true self. So what works for one way may not work for another, but that's sort of what I use. And it's sort of, for me, it's hard to explain it because it's more of an intuition. Because I'm sort of I can read body language very well. I consider myself empathic in that way, but it's hard to explain how I do it. You know what I mean? It's just sort of an intuition. Something's wrong. Like I can go to Squidge and say something's up. What's going on? You know, like without even being told. But that comes from a lot of patience and a lot of participation with that person. But if I didn't have that with Squidge, I would say, hey, can I see your journal? Or hey, let's sit down and have a conversation and relax. And why do we want to do this? Okay. That's the best I have for this answer, but 100% if people want to chip in and add to that. Blurpy, you had your hand up. Yes, real quick. Chihaya had a point to that. Wanting catharsis and wanting to be harmed are hard to distinguish. Know your partner well, basically. Yeah. You'll eventually get to the point where you know them on either side. And you could have a point where they want to be punished and they want to hurt themselves, and you do it. And you can see the reaction differently after the fact, right? You can see that they react differently. So you can kind of get an idea of if this, then that at the end of the day, right? It's going to take some trial and error, especially if someone wants to be punished or wants to hurt themselves. They may ask you to do more on the pain scales first without building up to it. So they may say, can we skip that and go to the end? You know what I mean? Sorry, go ahead, Connor.
I think a really important thing is one, knowing what substate versus disassociation feels like. And then 2, knowing your limits, but also knowing the difference between disassociation and then your subspace, and also knowing what that you as the sub have all the power in. Yeah.
And it's a big, it's not a joke, but it's a big misconception, but it's also like, okay, the dominant has all the power. Until the submissive says, no, you don't. You don't have any power because I have all the power. So a lot of people find that kind of funny. And I know some people that actually say, no, I don't want any power at all, which is fine, but it takes a lot to get to that point with somebody. That's where master and slave dynamics come in. That's down the line. That's BDSM marriage, okay? If you want to get to that point. But, as Connor said, he's absolutely right. The submissive has all the power and control in the relationship. So another thing that you can see is that if you go too hard and they don't stop you, then they're probably there for self-harm as well. Or someone that says, I have no limits. That is someone who, one, hasn't understood their limits, or two, are self-destructive. Like I told this story in the way beginning, one of the first classes, I was talking with someone on OkCupid, and they're just like, I have no limits and I wanted to be treated like shit. Okay, you are clearly a trauma victim, which is okay. Have you gone to therapy? You know, like you shouldn't be talking to people, random people online and trying to get this out of people, make sure that you're in an established relationship and do this in a safe environment. Nope, I don't have any limits. I don't want a safe word. I'm like, you're acting out your trauma. Not in a safe or in methodical way. Don't break people, as Everblaze says. I agree. Don't break your toys. Toys are nice to have around. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Adro chiming in. There's also a lot of people who I've run into who have said, use me without telling any limits or boundaries. Yes. Avoid those people or correct them, please. That is a tragedy waiting to happen. Okay. Be aware of nonverbal safe words, like a simple tap out. Yes, Everblaze, thank you for reminding me. Usually at the beginning of these, I go over simple ways of doing safe words. I apologize, I didn't add that to this. So the way our stoplight system here is green, thumbs up. Everyone can do it in the audience, or thumbs up, or it's go. Hold on, can you see this? Go, there you go. And then yellow is wave, check in, or tapping someone on the shoulder if you're IRL. That is the hand gesture, which we use for questions as well. And then everybody, if you want something to stop, no questions asked, scene's over. Crossing your hands, red, circle cross. There's always also people you run into, always correct them first before avoiding. Yes, we want to stop that proliferation of abusive behavior. They might be new saying no limits. Yeah, I agree. Okay. So we can move on from this. It's been an amazing discussion, and this is the kind of feedback and discussion I actually want in these classes during set periods. I'm glad we're starting to get people to actually do that. So yeah, appreciate it. So, masochist, this is for you. As a masochist, there's different types of pain that can be explored in a scene. Each type of pain can be experienced differently, and each can vary in sensation from person to person. For example, what one person might find pleasurable or arousing, another might find unbearable. Again, shower rod. It's important to understand that pain play is a highly individual and subjective experience, and what works for one person may not work for another. Here are some tips on how to take the various types of pain and maintain focus and a positive play mindset during a scene. Okay, thank you, Adro. To take stinging pain, it's important to focus on your breathing and relax your body. You can also communicate to your partner to adjust the intensity of the pain to a level that is comfortable to you. To take thuddy pain, it's important to breathe deeply. Again, this is a lot of breathing, but breathing deeply and relaxing your muscles, but also stiffening them in case of a thuddy impact. So you want to relax some muscles, but like if they're striking your booty, you can flex your booty muscles in order to absorb that impact correctly or move with it. You don't want to move and flail, but you can move with the impact in order to either lessen it or heighten it depending on what you want. Again, you have control of the situation. You can, based on your own movements, you can have it hurt more or less. And that is super cool. Heat pain, as we mentioned, candles, hot wax, heat tools. To take heat pain, it's important to communicate with your partner about the temperature in areas of the body that can tolerate heat. Don't jerk, or else you can catch fire, catch something else on fire, and you can't be put out if you're doing this and it gets out of control. Don't jerk. Yeah, as I said, don't jerk. Same thing with knives. If you jerk, you can cut yourself on someone that's using a knife. Have a plan in place in case fire happens. Bottoming is a lot of chi or ki control from a martial artist standpoint. Ability to remove self from the body, deep meditation. Yes, you're basically focusing and meditating and getting into subspace, getting into your little happy place. Connor.
Also, if you do wax play, it's really important to look at the melting point of your specific wax.
Yes, that is very important. Sometimes I forget that I haven't released this video yet, but I'm going to release a video that goes over that a little bit in terms of like candle wax and stuff. There are low temp candles on Amazon. They smell like turpentine, but they're there. They're basically low temp burning point candles that have less scalding wax coming down. So that's the melting point that we're talking about here. Chia, how hot depends on distance and a lot of implements. Yes, putting it close to the body is going to make it hotter. Correct. of using wax, put oil on first. It makes less burn and easier to clean. Yes, but make sure you're not putting oil on if you're going to be using fire, because that will cause it to spread. Blurpy.
The thing about using oil with wax play is you don't use oil when you go to put the wax on. When you take the wax off, it's going to take every hair with it.
That's correct.
Some people might be into that, but it won't be pleasant for others. It's a heads up.
Yes. Blurpy, like if you're doing it on the arm or something, you want to use oil, or else it's going to pull the hairs off. If people didn't hear that. Blurpy's a little quiet, so let me turn Blurpy up, actually. Degradation pain. It's important to communicate with your partner about the language and behaviors that are acceptable to you. It can also be helpful to have a debriefing session after the scene to process any emotional responses. Aftercare is huge in degradation. You may want to be called a bitch, but that doesn't mean you are one. Okay. Chia. Someone I knew used a layer of bar soap. Interesting. Interesting. In terms of heat play. I don't know. I've never used bar soap for that. And plus, whenever I use wax, it's usually on the back, so I've never really used oil in that regard, but that's a really good tip. What we used to do in my old dungeon is we used to cook wax in like a pressure cooker kind of thing. Like just like a fondue thing. Excuse me. It was like a fondue thing. And then use that to pour on there and then scrape off. And because we were using a fondue thing, we would put oil in it. Instead of having a candle, we would just put the oil in it automatically. So again, that's just by default. And then you scrape it off and it's really fun, especially when you're using it with knife play. Fun. Soap might work depending on the brand. A crock pot. Yes, it's a crock pot. Ours was a little bit of a fondue pot. It was small, so you just pour it on. Okay, humiliation play may involve public humiliation or exposure, such as being naked in front of others or being forced to perform a humiliating act. To take humiliation pain, it's important to maintain a strong and positive mindset. It can be helpful to focus on the sensations and remember that humiliation is consensual and intended to bring pleasure, not shame or harm. It can also be helpful to have a mantra, as Everblaze was saying, or affirmation in mind to reinforce this mindset. I am good. I am being treated poorly because I want it. I am a good person. Does anyone have any questions about receiving pain or the types of pain? I'm loving the interaction this class. Loving it. Very happy. Daddy happy. Oh, Blurpy, yes. While we wait for Everblaze.
When it comes to whip play, we encourage new people to, lean into it or pull away as I zero in on trying to find the sweet spot where they like it, whether it be on the, on the back, like near the shoulders, or on the butt. And so it's a little bit of that teamwork going back and forth to help find that, that sweet spot that just makes everything oh so amazing. And this, of course, works for other things too, like floggers, spanking. A little bit of teamwork makes the dream work, as they say.
Yes, teamwork makes the dream work. Moving around, making sure that you're on the same page when you're getting whipped. Whips especially, super careful. If you're new to whip bottoming, make sure that you let the person know and don't move. But if you're used to it, then you can move with them and it'll work. Don't try to move if someone's expecting you to stay still. Make sure that that's consented ahead of time. Because if you move, you can actually get cracked by that thing, because there is a big misconception. Whip play rarely involves actually hitting with it. It's the pressure that comes from it. Again, like when you're doing the big cracks, the really big ones, because if you use like that, it's going faster than the speed of sound. You're going to crack you're going to break skin. But a lot, it depends on the whip, but yeah. But I'm talking about huge bull whips, like for the other kinds of whips. Yeah, the other kinds of whips, yes, you're lots of touching, lots of flicking, lots of crack, but it's a lot lighter in that regard. Again, Blurpy's the expert on whips, not me. I just know what I've been taught by my mentor at my old dungeon, who led the thing, was a pro dame, and she was an expert at bull whips. So I'm not huge on it, but Blurpy is, so ask Blurpy questions. Blurpy loves whips and talking about whips. Ever heard of punishment? Bullet crack around sound is more for fear play. Normally we don't crack on the skin. Yes, 100%. That's what I was trying to say. If someone has a big ass bullwhip, don't move. Don't move at all. That was kind of the point I was trying to make. Because if someone has a large bullwhip and they're just doing light little things, that's fine. But if they're cracking, stay still. Fair play. Punishment is needed by brats. Yes. Yes, 100%. So, why do masochists like pain? We have masochists in the crowd, you can tell me. No, we'll go over that in the question segment and the interaction segment. So, masochism is a complex phenomenon that has been studied and debated for many years. One of the central questions arises when discussing masochism is why someone would enjoy experiencing pain. There There are several possible explanations on why they enjoy pain, including biological, psychological, and physiological, along with social factors. From a biological perspective, some researchers suggest that masochism may be related to the release of endorphins, which are natural painkillers provided by the body or produced by the body. When a person experiences pain, their body releases endorphins as a way to dull the pain and provide a sense of euphoria or pleasure. Masochists may enjoy the rush of endorphins when it comes from experiencing pain and create the sense of relaxation and well-being. Psychologically, some researchers suggest that masochism may be related to the desire to control or self-punish. Again, we were talking about that earlier. Self-punishment is fine. Self-harm is not. For example, a masochist may feel the sense of relief or catharsis. This is big with pain play, catharsis, when they experience pain, as they are purging the negative emotions or punishing themselves for perceived wrongdoings. Additionally, it also makes sure that they know that the dominant has seen it and that they can get rid of it. They want someone to help maintain their good behavior, and that's what the punishment is for. Masochists may enjoy the experience of being dominated or controlled by the partner, which can provide a sense of comfort and security. Social factors may also play a role in masochism. For example, some researchers suggest that masochism may be related to cultural or social norms around gender and power dynamic. In some cultures, pain and suffering are seen as a desirable or even necessary for personal growth or spiritual development, such as give yourself 10 Hail Marys, the Catholic Church, and various other types of those things. Punishment. Masochists may be drawn to these cultural norms and seek out partners who share in these beliefs. It is important to note that not all masochists enjoy pain for the same reasons, or even enjoy pain. If someone is a masochist, there could be someone that does it as a service to others, like I mentioned. It's a little different, but they do it and they become a masochist in their own head, even though they may not want to do it overall for everybody. They may be a masochist to one person, not everyone. And some may not be able to fully articulate why they enjoy it. Additionally, enjoying pain does not necessarily mean that the person is mentally unwell or has experienced trauma in the past. Rather, it is a complex phenomenon that can be influenced by a range of factors, including biology, psychology, and culture. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I love it when things sort of work out that way, when I'm putting things on paper and it sort of comes out in an essay form. Let's see. Brat types will push their doms to punishment out of fun without the dom. Oh yeah, everyone's having a punishment conversation. Some just want to control taken from them so they can be in the moment and turn off their brains. Yes, 100%. I don't want to be in control right now. Punish me and make me go into fun la la land. Okay, so does anyone have any questions on? So for sadists, I can personally say that I enjoy giving pain because it makes me happy. I enjoy the sensations that it brings. I enjoy the reactions I get from it. I enjoy the catharsis it gives me when I pull someone on the hair and their hair back and I bite their neck, and the reactions that I get. It's a very controlling thing for me. I go into a type A mindset, but I always make sure that I'm putting them first and I'm not harming them. It's a very giddy sort of type A sort of dom space for me, especially when I'm doing knife play. I get really, really happy. If I'm giving people pain with knives, it's not just the knife play, it's the pain I'm giving with the knives. And I know that I have near full control over the exact pain that I want. So if you are a sadist and you practice your craft over and over again, whether it be on tomatoes for knife play or couch cushions for hitting, or on willing bottoms or demo bottoms, it's so much better when you can actually know exactly how hard you're going to spank. I've been reading a story about a man who brings on two submissives, and it's so awesome to see like that he has full control over what he's doing, and the submissive knows in her mind that when he's spanking the other, it's exactly what they want the other person to feel, and they're content in that. They know that they're never going to get pushed past where their dominant wants them to be, and that's such an amazing experience. Okay, Adra, there are people who enjoy more mental side of sadism and masochism, yes, but it is play that does need aftercare, 100%. Everblaze, a top or dom needs or should have been in pain before putting it on another, in my opinion. Yes, 100%. You need to be able to feel what that is. Not necessarily the full brunt of it, but you should understand what it means. Because, again, everyone's different. You're not going to be able to feel exactly what they're feeling. As a dame, I love being the person who makes someone Being the person who allows their sub to experience different sensations and knowing that you're the creator and how someone goes through it. Yes, that's the control aspect. You want to be that person to give that sensation and have them come to you for that as well. It's very reaffirming as a dominant or a dominant that you're the curator of how someone goes through their life. Absolutely. Some people just enjoy pushing their limits and seeing the practice pay off. Yes, 100%. So the last thing we're going to talk about before we go into Q&A, this class has actually been an hour long, a little bit longer, so that's cool. I am 100% okay with classes going long because of interaction. Y'all are great. So, finding a partner that matches your desires. Went over this a little bit last time. Finding a partner who's compatible with your sadistic or masochistic desires can be a challenging process, but here are several tips to help you in your search. Be open and honest. When looking for a partner, it's important to be upfront about your sadistic desires. On OkCupid, I say I want power exchange. I am not looking for a vanilla relationship. I am looking for power exchange, and I am a sadist who enjoys that. It really limits who I get to interact with, but I don't have to deal with a lot of the fluff. And that's a good thing. Be clear of what you're looking for and what your boundaries are. This will help you find a partner who's on the same page and looking for a similar experience. Use online resources, as I said. OkCupid. This server is not a dating site, but we're like-minded people. Things can happen. Don't use us as a dating site, but if you start to build a rapport with somebody, that'd be great. If it's consensual, again, there are like groups and stuff for that, like on Reddit, R for R and stuff like that. I don't recommend using FetLife as a way to pick up people. People don't like that. Sending dick pics in FetLife is no good. Sorry, I'm looking at Blurpy React. It's exactly the way I feel. Like, oh God, just like in real life. You're not going to go up to someone and show them your dick. So don't do it in DMs without consent. There are some people that are pushing to have that be made as assault, by the way. So
yeah, no one likes sudden penis.
Penis. Sudden penis. Never met. Yes. Darling Defiled. Never Met is like the Tinder for VRC, correct? I met quite a few people that are in the server there. There's also Virtually, or what's it called? Virtual.io or something like that. That one is more catered towards BDSM because they have actual options that you can put. But just remember, there's a lot of people in VR that are into BDSM in one way or the other. That's why we're here. Virtual, thank you. That's what I meant. I like Never Met better because they finally fixed their notification bugs. Isn't it already sexual harassment? Yes, it is, but they're trying to get it actually something that you can push as assault because it's against your consent to have to see that kind of thing. It's going to be ruled as indecent exposure and actually pushed as that. So that's a good thing. Okay, people typing. Attend events and gatherings. Attending munches gatherings related to BDSM and kink can be a great way to meet potential partners. Again, don't do it just to do that. Do it to get involved in the community. And if you find someone that's good for you, all the better. If you go to a dungeon, I recommend not playing for the first time you're there. Be aware, observe, see what's going on. Someone messages me on OkCupid recently and said, hey, I just went to my first dungeon. I marked that off of my bucket list. Good for you. Did you play? No. Thank God. Look, don't touch. Don't feel pressured. Because a lot of people that go to play parties when they're first going through feel pressure to play, and then that ends up being a non-consensual experience. They bounce off of kink and they're gone. Adorath. There's a new one that has been done called VRERP, mostly for a place for hookups, but I found a lot of people are kink friendly. There are search functions just like Virtual, yes. I personally, when I'm looking for a play partner, is someone that I want to establish a relationship with, but that's not the case with everybody. Some people want to do pickup play, and that's 100% okay. Just make sure that you are clear ahead of time. Don't go into something wanting a relationship, and they just want pickup play. You're going to end up getting hurt. Communicate your needs. Once you found a potential partner, it's important to communicate your needs and desires clearly. This includes discussing your boundaries, limits, and negotiate. We have classes on this on YouTube and our website if you want to read it. Negotiating a scene, vetting someone, power dynamics, that's all something that we've done. We basically cut one class into 3 parts. That's all that class is, just going over that. And plus kink relationships, which was our last class from last week. You can go and find that. It'll help you with that too. Take things slow. This is not a race. Get to know people that you're thinking with playing with and make sure you vibe with them on multiple levels and not just physically. Okay? not just physically. Okay. Now we're going to go into Q&A. If anyone has anything, before we go into our workshop, which is going to be doing play and play on each other. If we have enough people and want to go to the dungeon. Connor!
I just have a comment for earlier.
Sure.
Where a sub having no limits might be new to the scene or kind of a little bit of a red flag, I would say an equivalency, especially so for DOMs that want to have no limits sub.
Correct. Those are the perpetuator of said abuse.
Usually it's kind of predatory.
It is predatory. They're the perpetuators of said abuse. If a dominant says no limits, again, mistake on my part not reiterating that point. But yeah, it works on both sides. Most of everything I've said today works on both sides. So 100% Connor. Thank you. Be safe out there. That was Pain Play class. We got a big chunk of time out of that. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Before you all leave, I want to let you know that we do these every single week. And we're trying to put more workshops together after the fact so people come to the actual classes. Again, if you don't want to come to the class, then you can watch the video, which comes out on Wednesdays on our YouTube channel. So if you go up to our social links, you can click on that and find us across the web. We also have a website. So I'll put the video on the website as well as my notes and my scripts. So you get everything all together. Again, if you just read this, you're not going to get the times when I go off the script, which is a lot, but you'll get the general gist of it. And I usually edit out the ums, ors, and the pauses, so you don't have to watch me flail around it usually cuts out like 5 or 10 minutes out of the video. So yeah. Oh, and we have munches coming up. So let me do some announcements before we end and go to our dungeon. So next Thursday, we have Pet Play Social, a Primal Impulse social event. We're going to be gathering on VR chat to have a Pet Play Social, where we can all get together and be pets together. You can come and meet people that may want to have a handler or be a pet to somebody. That's fine. This is a mixer, but it's also a social. So make sure that if you're there to pick up people, you're doing it in a respectful way. Mental bondage next week. Next Saturday is going to be mental bondage. It's a class where we go over the mental side of BDSM. Mental restriction, different psychological aspects, various different types of mental play, mind fucking somebody, getting in their head. That sort of thing. I needed a little bit more time on that one, so I had to move this class to next week and Pain Play class up to this week. Also, FYI, we have the next 4 months planned out. So we're going to start writing ahead of time. I have to reach out to several people that I want to be guests here, but one of the things we have coming up is rope. So that should be fun. Hard to do in VR, but we'll do our best. We might actually do that on Discord instead because of just being able to show the different types. I have to have a conversation with the co-writers. Also, we have co-writers now. Thank you, Chihaya and Tess. And anyone else that's on staff also has an opportunity to co-write. Our internal way of doing that is that I put the script up and then people can make comments and we can accept or put them in. So everyone has a say. Again, we're trying to push as an overall sort of message here, and make sure it's all valid and consensual and correct. But it's good to have multiple viewpoints because I'm just one viewpoint. And then on Friday, April 14th, we have our monthly Primal Munch, announcing that we're having a munch on either Discord or VR chat. It's going to be based on a vote, and we're going to allow people to come in and be themselves and just hang out. And again, I mentioned this at the start, I'm going to be doing a raffle. So if you're there, you'll have a chance to win a couple Steam games and a virtual asset for your avatar.